Student Diversity and Inclusion Organization started about 6 or 7 years ago when people from our community got together and decided that we wanted to address some anti-Semitism and other things that had been going on. We had decided we would get together. We started to have committee meetings on a regular basis, and from then we decided that we would focus on representation work that needs to happen in the town of Stoughton, events like this that need to happen in the town of Stoughton to celebrate inclusion and diversity. Okay, great. So I'm really happy to introduce the vice chair of our select board, Steve Cavey, the man of the hour. And he will be reading our town proclamation.
Teresa, I know, I'm sorry, I apologize. Great seeing you. Thank you very much, everybody.
I'm going to unfurl the flag.
Absolutely.
I will unfurl the flag.
So I do want to pass along that Deborah Roberts, the select board chair, was not able to attend today due to some unforeseen events in her family, but she asked me to read in her stead, and I appreciate the opportunity. So the town of Stoughton, proclamation honoring and remembering Juneteenth. Be it proclaimed. Whereas we, the town of Stoughton, recognize Juneteenth as the nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in 1865 as African American emancipation in the United States, and declare June 20th in the year 2022 as this year's celebration. And whereas the efforts of the Civil War veterans brought forth the Juneteenth efforts, it took over 150 years to get to this point. Therefore, we as citizens honor the fight for freedom and continue recognizing when one of us is enslaved, no one of us is totally living free. As a community, we continue to take a vow to fight racism and discrimination of all kinds, to allow our citizens to live free without prejudice and fear. And therefore, and whereas we, the citizens of we, the Stoughton Select Board, on behalf of the town's residents, remember the fallen and continue to show our never-ending gratitude for their sacrifices on the battlefield. And whereas we recognize the National Civil War veterans, particularly those from the town of Stoughton, and remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Now, therefore, we, Deborah C. Roberts, Chair, Stephen M. Cavey, Vice Chair, Joseph M. McCrisky, Scott D. Carrera, and Louis F. Gito, recognize June 20th, 2022 as the celebration of the Juneteenth in our town. In witness thereof, together, we have set our hands and caused the Great Seal of the town of Stoughton to be affixed on this 7th day of June, 2022, and the proclamation is signed by Deborah Roberts, Stephen Cavey, Joe McCrisky, Scott Carrera, and Louis Gito. Thank you very much.
And now we are going to begin our march to Faxon Park, where we're going to have a celebration together. Thank you very much.
Let freedom ring!
You want us to leave it all there? Yeah, I think we're all through.
our Juneteenth celebration. This has been organized by the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about our mission statement, and then we're going to get on with the program. So what is our mission? The concept of diversity and inclusion encompasses acceptance and respect for the dignity of all individuals. It's about understanding each other and moving beyond simple tolerance to embracing, celebrating, and sharing our diversity. We celebrate the peaceful exchange of ideas from multiple perspectives. And we do want you to know this is a nonpartisan group. Therefore, we do not endorse political candidates, but we welcome all of the Stoughton residents here, and thank you very much for joining us today. I forgot to say I'm the chair of the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization, and next Karma will be coming up to tell us a little bit about Juneteenth and introducing our speaker for the day.
Good morning. Welcome. It's so glad to see you out today. My name is Karma, and I am also a long-time member of the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization. Today is the official date this year to celebrate Juneteenth. This holiday was recognized as a federal holiday June 2021. Now, many of you may ask, what is Juneteenth? Juneteenth, short for June 19th, marks the day when federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas in 1865 to take control of the state and to ensure that all enslaved people were free. These people had been set free 2 years prior, but did not know they were free. Juneteenth is celebrated as a reminder that no one is free until we all are free. Yes. It is also called Freedom Day. Why is this day important? In about a month's time, we will be celebrating our country's birthday, known as Independence Day, the 4th of July. We have grown into a great and powerful nation. However, we all know that many people at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence were in bondage, and many others did not have the right to pursue liberty and justice guaranteed by the Constitution. Freedom has its growing pains. But it also has its celebrations, and that's why we're here today. Juneteenth is a time to sit down with family and community and celebrate. As soon as many Black people were freed, they began to search for their families. This was a difficult task. Today we have DNA and town records throughout the South, and all throughout the South, people are reconnecting with their families. Amazing stories are being told and being recorded to give us a better idea of our nation's history. Children, if you are out there, young folks, take time to listen to the stories of your great-grandparents and your grandparents. Everyone should know their history. And this, for a very long time, was very difficult for many of us in this country. And slowly by slowly, we are learning more and more about our country's history. And I think that will let us move on in freedom and truth. A few months ago, I received an email from my uncle who is in his 80s. He told me about a woman named Lena Doolin from Hannibal, Missouri. I was born in Hannibal, Missouri. My mother's family's names are Doolins and Mallorys. We really didn't have a whole lot of idea of how we got those names, but we're starting to learn that as time goes on. My father's family's name, their last name is Pearl. But my great-grandmother is named Lena Doolin, but apparently this was a different Lena Doolin, both of them born in Hannibal. There had to be a connection. We suspect that she is also part of our family, but have not confirmed yet. I bring her up because she left behind a poem that is published to remind everyone that Black people made an enormous contribution to our country's history. I'm going to read the poem in just a moment, written by Lena Doolin, and it's important because the poem that she wrote, probably in the 1930s, maybe around that time, was also a time when Black people were starting to figure out, who are we? We do have a history. We did contribute to this country. How can we let people know that we helped build this country? And so she felt it was so important to write this poem, probably in the 1930s. You can Google it, she's there. And the name of the poem is A Negro Was in It by Doolin by Lena Doolin Mallory. And I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts so you can see what the feeling was at that time about being connected to a country and then being recognized. I mean, we still had Jim Crow coming up, and there was a lot of things going on, but people had pride in the fact that they had labored in this country and helped make it the great country that it is. So this is the poem by Lena Doolin Mason. In the last Civil War, the white folks, they began it. But before it could close, the Negro had to be in it. At the Battle of San Juan Hill, the Rough Riders, they began it. But before victory could be won, the Negro had to be in it. The Negro shot the Spaniard from the tree and never did regret it. The Rough Riders would have been dead today had the Negro, not been in it. To Buffalo, President McKinley, went to welcome people in it. The prayer was prayed, the speech made, the Negro, he was in it. September 6th in Music Hall with thousands and thousands in it, McKinley fell from assassin's ball, and the Negro, he got in it. He knocked the murderer to the floor, he struck his nose, the blood did flow. He held him fast, all nearby saw, when for the right, the Negro was in it. J.B. Parker is his name. He is from the state of Georgia, came. He worked in Buffalo for his bread, and there he saw McKinley dead. They brought his clothes for souvenirs, and may they ever tell it, that when the president was shot, a brave Negro was in it. And all around that time in the 1930s and 40s, these poems came out, stories came out about the contributions that many African Americans had made to this country. Thank you. And we have among us, and forgive me if I miss anybody, but I do want you to raise your hands and so forth. And I'm not, I don't know, Teresa, you might want to do this because you're probably better at just recognizing a couple of people that came out to join us. I do know that we have running for State Senate, Kathleen Krogan-Camara. Could you raise your hand there? And I know we have with us also Ms. Tamisha Civil. And from our select board, we have Stephen Cavey. All right, and I know I'm missing one other person, and if you are here, please come down. Oh, yes, come on down for a moment. Just to say your name and hello. Oh, okay, one more.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good, thank you very much. First of all, my name's Walter Timilty. I have the privilege of serving as your state senator, and thank you very much. I was here a year ago when we celebrated this hallowed day on our national calendar, and I thank you very much, and I will be here a year from now to celebrate this hallowed day on your national calendar, and I thank you. Days such as today and activities and gatherings such as today, and I thank diversity, equity, and inclusion, make us better as a community in what is already a great town. So I thank you all very much. God bless and thank you. Together we will always stand and commemorate this wonderful holiday in our national calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. And was there one other person here? Come on down.
Good morning, everybody. I'm State Representative Ted Phillips. It's a privilege to be here with you and to extend best wishes from the Massachusetts House of Representatives as we celebrate today. As was alluded to, Black history is American history. We just don't talk enough about it. And so, through Juneteenth, we are finally starting with the establishment of this holiday to right that wrong. But we have a lot of work to do, and I'm looking forward to being able to do that work with you. So happy Juneteenth. It's wonderful to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So as many of you may know, I'm Steve Cavey. I'm a select board member, vice chair currently. I just really wanted to, more than anything else, repeat the same message as our representatives. Black history is American history, and I say this during our meetings when Martin Luther King Day comes around. Is I remember King as an older man because I grew up in a time when he was no longer with us, and I was a child, and it wasn't until I was on the select board I actually took the time to kind of ask how old was he when he actually passed away. and I discovered that he was younger than I currently am. And it was shocking because of how much he'd accomplished in his time. Juneteenth is about much more than that, but just him. But I do think about, who cannot think about his dream speech on a regular basis. And, and watching the old videos, everything's in black and white. It feels so long ago. And it feels like that was something that we've conquered, and it's no longer a problem for us now because we have these old videos of people solving the problems. That is not true. There's still a ton of work all of us have to do, and we have to dedicate our lives to it, not take our eye off of the goals, work every day to get us a step further. And, in King's words, he did not believe he was going to live to see the day. I would have, if you asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, I feel like I might live to see the day. I'm not so certain anymore. This is going to take all of our work, constantly coming back day after day, reaffirming the fact that we care for one another, we love one another, and that we will fight for one another. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me to this.
Thank you. So today our keynote speaker is Mr. Joe Feaster, and Joe can tell you all about himself. He's just an amazing resident of Stoughton, and at one point in our history, he was interim town manager, did an amazing job, stepped up when was called, and was able to lead, and that's what is being asked of all of us. But I am not going to spend much time on this. Joe, if you could come on down, we welcome you. And you can give us a little brief background, and we appreciate you stepping up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Carmer. Let's see, what time is it? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, I can see you. Must be some Baptists out there because I heard you. Good morning, good morning. Thank you very much, Carmer. Thank you, SDIO. Thank you, Vice Chair Cavey, Senator Timilty, Representative Phillips, and those who are running for elective office. I will greet you in your political names if you are successful, but I want to welcome you here and all the residents and persons who are here today. Carmer gave a history of Juneteenth, and I'm going to give the Feaster version of that for sure. And she asked me to introduce myself, so I'll do it very briefly from the standpoint. I've been a practicing attorney for the past 46 years. I was the interim town manager here in Stoughton. I chaired the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts in Boston. And just last Sunday, I received an honorary doctorate degree, a Doctor of Humane Letters from William James College. And the reason why I mention that is because I am very committed to the issues of mental illness and suicide. And so it was very humbling for me to receive this from William James College, where they train persons who are going to be psychologists, psychiatrists, etc. So it was very meaningful to receive that from them because I see the issue of mental illness as my ministry. But let me just talk about it. I'm wearing the 1619 shirt because it fits into the conversation that's here today. And, I said it very briefly in the sense of this, but let's give a big hand for Carmer. She was principal in bringing this event today. So let's lift her up. Let's put our hands together and thank her for today. I know others were involved, but Carmer, you led the effort. I want to make sure that you get your propers while you're living, for sure. But I said I'm wearing this 1619 because if you've been listening to the political conversations that have been going on for the past number of years, we've had the situation of what we call the cancel culture. One doesn't want to talk about the contributions that black people made in this country right from the beginning. So I'm wearing the 1619 shirt. I got all these groups represented on the back, and I want SDI, I want the folks from SMAC to get the names of them. And so the reality is, no, not my butt, just the names on the back of the thing, please. So the reality is that I wanted to talk about it, but let's talk about actually what Juneteenth was about. We had a situation where a number of black folks who lived in Texas 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, which, folks, let's be realistic. You can't emancipate some place that you don't control, and that's what President Lincoln did. He only emancipated those areas that were held by the Confederate. The ones that were the Union, like Virginia and other places like that, were not emancipated. The black people were emancipated, if you want to call it that, and if we can go through the history to now, which I won't do, because that's not what my purpose is here today, but at least it wasn't until December of 1965 with the passage of the 13th Amendment that black folks were emancipated in those areas that were not civil, that were not Confederate states at that particular point in time. Texas persons didn't participate much in the war, and they stayed very much a slave state for many, many years. In fact, many of the Confederates used to go to Texas in order to continue the slave trade even after that. The other thing that didn't occur with Juneteenth is they said, okay, folks, 2.5 years later, you're free. But then freedom wasn't there because they said, well, we don't want you to go out and celebrate. We don't want you to go out and the slave owners didn't have to stop having you act as slaves, or you're going to have to pay for certain things that you do get, and you can own no land, etc. So if you really look at what was really done, in my estimation, it was a hollow circumstance, but still something to celebrate. And that's the reason why the people in Texas, black people in Texas particularly, right from the beginning, treated it as something to celebrate. And it wasn't until the 1980s that throughout the country that other persons began to catch on. And don't quote me on the time frame because my notes are here, but I don't remember them, all the dates exactly. But it was sometime after that folks began to celebrate it, and they were having picnics and gatherings. And quite frankly, as was said by Vice Chair Cavey, 150 years later, we finally, in June of last year, Congress passed with unanimous vote of the Senate, 14 dissenters in the House, principally from those southern states. But nonetheless, it did pass, and President Biden signed Juneteenth into law as a federal holiday in 2021. And we have a reason to celebrate. We definitely do, even though it took 150 years. And we also find that even though this is a federal holiday, many of the cities and towns throughout the country, but here in Massachusetts, will not allow the Juneteenth flag to be flown on poles like they were in front of Town Hall. So Vice Chairman Cavey, we'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back to address that particular issue. But I think the importance of today as well is this. Folks got to vote. Folks got to vote. Folks got to vote. You young folks who have gotten to 18, you got to vote. And the reason being is, if you've seen what has transpired over the past 5 years, if you've seen what's transpired on January 6th of last year, if you've been listening to the January 6th committee, if you're listening and viewing the votes that are taking place in various places around the country, folks, our democracy is in trouble. We are under attack. And unless good people like those of you here participate in the process, this country is going to fall. And I say that Vice Chair Cavey said he wouldn't have thought 5 years ago whether we'll make it there. I turned 72 on my last birthday. My sense is I want to be able to make it before I leave this earth, that we have a situation whereby we have our democracy just as strong as it's ever been. Now, it has never been perfect. We know that from the time of the Constitution. But what is being faced at the present time is something, and you young folks here, y'all are the ones that are going to have to deal with it. Y'all are the ones who are going to be affected by the policies that are going to be put in place. I'm not going to make this a partisan event. But what I am going to say to you, educate yourself on who's running from local to national. We want folks on the school board. We want folks on the select board. We want folks on the planning commission. We want folks on conservation commission here in town. 3% of the population in Stoughton voted in the last election. That's criminal. That's criminal. 3% of the people decided who was going to represent you us, not you, us in this town. I'm hopeful that through the efforts that they do in voter education today and voter registration, that we can increase that number. I want to see, and I don't want to make this isn't a racial piece, but I know for a fact that persons of color in this town are not participating to the extent that I think that they should. I have put my skin in the game. I served as interim town manager. I served as a town meeting representative. I sat up there and did it. We need to have people participate so there is a continuum of people making some effort in order to address and influence what's going on in the town of Stoughton. So we have good representatives that are here. You know, yes, I spoke to them all because I know them all. I've been around in terms of dealing in that political environment. I served in the State House. I served in Boston. I served here locally. I serve on community-based organizations. I chair the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. I'm a past president of the Boston branch NAACP. So folks, you can't stand up there and say, oh yeah, that he's just talking. No, I'm doing the work. I'm doing the work. And I'm going to challenge any and everybody in terms of if you're not doing the work, if you're not voting, then don't come complaining to me because I have nothing to say to you. I have nothing to say to you if you're not in the process. So this is a day for celebration. I want to thank those, as I said, with Carmer and her husband have been in here. I know that Sylvia Whiting is here. I know that Teresa, the chair, is. Dex, who I just met here, and other members of SDIO. They're doing the work. They can use your support. If you don't have the time, send the money. We always take the money. And you can sign up over there, you can give the money, and I challenge folks in terms of I'm gonna put Senator Timothy on the spot. He'll match whatever you do here today. Senator Timothy and Representative Phillips will match whatever it does in terms of the memberships from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. Before we move on to the next part of this program, I was wondering, so I noticed there's no holder for the flag up here, so that might be something we'll have to fix in the town of Stoughton, is to get one up there. But if there is someone that can help get the American flag up, the tape is over there, we might be able to put it on one of these posts, that would be great. And then we'll work on maybe getting a holder for the flag. So our next group is O'Donnell Middle School students, Brianna Jean, Marie, and Collins Fargerillo. One moment. Yes?
Yeah, Bill Galvin.
Okay. State Senator. Come on down and say hello to us. We have another representative of Massachusetts.
The great General Corps.
All right. You can say hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I am grateful to be here today to recognize Juneteenth in Stoughton. Juneteenth is both a celebration and a solemn reminder of our nation's somber history. Juneteenth allows us, as a community and a nation, to acknowledge that slavery was an unforgivable crime against humanity, and to remember the men and women whose labor and bondage made America a wealthy nation. After the last slave was freed in Texas in 1865, the racism that was used to enslave was the basis for harmful policies like Jim Crow, redlining, and restricted access to ballots. It is important that we acknowledge these terrible moments in our history so that we can attempt to correct the generations of harm caused to the black community and finally achieve equality, equity as a society. Today, also gives us an opportunity to celebrate Black heritage and the important contributions Black Americans have made to our nation. Black Americans have invented items we rely on every day, including elevators, caller ID, traffic lights, refrigeration, and even the potato chip. The innovations and contributions of Black Americans to our nation have been crucial to the success of our nation. Thank you to the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization for hosting the annual Juneteenth event here in Stoughton. Thank you. And it is a pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you so much. All right, so we would like to have our O'Donnell Middle School students to come on up and make certain you introduce yourselves so that we get the correct pronunciation of your names.
So my name's Colleen.
Hi, my name is Brianna.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We brave the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice, and yet the dawn is ours before we knew it.
Somehow we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting from one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze, not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must put our differences aside.
We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious. Not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid.
If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. It's because because this is a promise in glade, the hill we climb if only we dare. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past that we step into and we repair it. Would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy, and this effort has nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated.
In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes in the future, history has its eyes on us. This is an era of just redemption. We feared at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us?
We will not march to what was, but what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, malevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be inheritance to the next generation, become the future. Our boulders will become their burdens. But one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change, our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise the wounded world into a wondrous one.
We will rise from the golden hills of the west. We will rise from the windswept northeast where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover.
In every nook of our nation, in every corner called our country, our people, diverse, beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out to the shade of flame and unafraid. For there is always light if we are brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Got it?
And Colleen.
And Brianna. Oh, and we just read the inauguration poem of Amanda Gorman of Joe Biden's inaugural speech called The Hill We Climb.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. What grade? What grades? 8th grade? All right. Thank you so much. Young people stepping up. It's wonderful. Our next speaker is Tamisha Civil, resident of Stoughton. And I think whenever the SDIO has just about anything, Tamisha is pretty much there showing her support. Welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, SDIO, for having me here. As Carmel said, I am a Stoughton resident. I've been living here for the last several years, and it's just a pleasure to be here with you all. This morning, I'm going to be reading a Barack Obama quote, and I'll say something a little bit after that. Juneteenth has never been a celebration of victory or an acceptance of the way things are. It's a celebration of progress. It's an affirmation that despite the most painful part of our history, change is possible. And there is still so much work to do. As I stand before you, I just want to say thank you for all of you who are here from all surrounding communities. We need change, and change is good. At the end of the day, we all bleed the same blood. Look around you. See what's happening. Take a look around in your community. Because I can't do it alone, but the next generation can. We need to stand together. We need to fight together. We need to educate ourselves of who's fighting for you. We need to collaborate with one another. Don't matter where you're from, what zip code you live in, what bank account you have. We need to stand together for change because our next generation is counting on us, and they're counting on you. So let's stand together, collaborate, communicate, and love one another because peace will set us free. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have just a little bit of information to give you. We have a couple of tables around. I know there's the voter registration table. There is also a raffle. No amount is too small, and I think there's tickets over there. And it's for a 3-month membership. This was donated by the YMC. It's a family membership. So be certain to check that out. And we definitely want to give thanks to our many sponsors. And if I've missed a sponsor, by all means, step up and speak up. But we're very thankful to Envision Bank, Harbor One, and of course, Stoughton Old Colony Y. And at this time, did we have anything else that we needed to cover? There are children tables back there. There will be coloring tables and game tables and hula hoop. And there is some water in a chest out there, ice chest, if you get thirsty. And the band.
I just want to say thank you to the band members too. Steve Tapper, Max Whiting, Shira Moss. They will be continuing to play so that you can enjoy, relax together. We do have some bubbles. We just want to invite you to celebrate and get to know each other. We do have a raffle going on. That money will go towards supporting the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization. Thank you again.
Thank you.